and welcome to this walkthrough of how to integrate a SaaS application with a database instance using Oracle Integration Cloud. My name is Karre Lawson, and I will be guiding you through this configuration. Please note, this walkthrough assumes that you have already been through the Integration Designer page and configured all of your connections. To start, we're going to walk through the final process and just the look and feel to see what this integration accomplishes. We have an application open called Postman, which is really just serving as a client to call REST API endpoint. In our case, we are calling the endpoint that will trigger the integration that we have created. I have a JSON object here, which serves as a skeleton of the data that would flow through to this integration. For instance, we could have this integration be triggered by a user submitting a form. And behind the scenes, this is the look of the data that will be sent to the integration. Click Send to submit the data, and we'll just wait a moment to see the response that is returned to us at the end of the integration. That lets us know that the contact details were added successfully. Now, if we go to the Marketing Cloud instance and search for the same contact, we will see the details were propagated into the system, and the same goes for the database. You can see a new row inserted. Going back just a few steps, I will now show you how to create the integration. Here on the Integration Designer page inside OIC, start by clicking Create and select App-Driven Orchestration. Give the integration a name and just add a short description. To start this integration, we are going to add in a trigger REST endpoint called create new contact. Give the relative resource URI, change the action to post, and check the boxes to allow us to configure the payload for the request and the response. Then go in and define the schema for both of these. Moving on, we're going to add in our first invoke, which will connect the SaaS instance to the integration. We have a built-in adapter for this, but currently I'm just going to use our REST adapter. So I'm going to call this add contact to Eloqua and change the action to post. Check configure the request and call the URI /call ELO. Click done and move on to mapping the request from the initial calling of the integration to the target, this SaaS application. Next, we're going to add in a database invoke, give it a name, a short description, and perform an operation on a table. In just a few clicks, we will add in a table from our database instance. And then we'll go on to mapping. Taking one quick step back, I just want to discuss the concept of a connectivity agent. It is used to simplify connectivity to systems, typically on-prem systems. For example, in our case, we're using an agent to connect to this database. It is a configuration that you install on the server of the system and acts as a middleman between OIC and the system. It reduces concerns regarding security because you won't have to add any listeners, open any ports, or change any firewall configurations. It uses existing HTTPS network traffic and can be started and stopped or left running. If you need help configuring the agent, I have another video on that will walk you through that step-by-step setup. Stepping back into the integration, we are going to save, close, and activate it. Enable tracing to be able to monitor the integration health. If the integration were to fail, you'd be able to see where exactly in the flow it did that. If you include the payload, you'll be able to see the data that flowed through the entire integration up until that particular step. Once activated, if we click the gear, we'll be able to see the documentation and the endpoint that can be used to call the integration. Copy that and switch to Postman, where I've already entered the URL, basic auth, and payload needed to run that is shown here. If we transition over to the customer experience application, we can search through the contacts to find that newly created person stored successfully. And we can also check the database. Let's just refresh, and you can see that same contact added as a new row. And that's the full integration here. It's very basic, but effectively demonstrates how to use integration to perpetuate real-time updates of information through siloed systems. So I hope you learned something today and were able to get everything up and running for your first integrations. Thank you for your time, and hope you'll join me again on our next video of Oracle Cloud products.